Sarah's hand trembled as she stood at the front door of the house she had abandoned 10 years ago. The same brass knocker hung there, worn but polished. The same red door, though freshly painted. She hadn't meant to come back, not after all this time. Not after what she'd done. The letter burning in her pocket had brought her here, a desperate plea from her oldest daughter, now 17. Words that haunted her for weeks until she found herself on this doorstep, heart racing, afraid of what she would find inside. Would there be hatred in their eyes? Would they even recognize her? Would he have told them terrible things about her, things that might be true? She took a deep breath and knocked, the sound echoing through what once was home. The door swung open, and there he stood, Michael, the man she had left with 4 small children, and a note saying simply that she couldn't do this anymore. His eyes widened in shock, and all the rehearsed words died in her throat. Behind him, she could see the house was different, bright, organized, warm. And from somewhere inside came children's laughter, but they weren't small children anymore. The silence between them stretched until he finally spoke. "Why now?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why come back now?" 10 years earlier, Michael Collins stared at the note in his hand, reading it for the 20th time as if the words might somehow change. "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. Don't try to find me, Sarah." 8 words. 8 words to end 12 years of marriage. 8 words to abandon 4 children, the youngest barely 2 years old. He sat at the kitchen table, listening to the sounds of his children sleeping upstairs, unaware that their world had just shattered. Emma was 7. The twins, Lily and Lucas, were 5. And little Noah was just past his 2nd birthday. What would he tell them when they woke up? How could he explain that their mother was gone? Michael ran his hands through his hair, still not believing what had happened. He and Sarah had argued the night before. They'd been arguing more often lately, but nothing that suggested she would leave. Nothing that would make him think she could walk away from their family. She had seemed tired, overwhelmed maybe, but this was unthinkable. He picked up his phone and called her number again, straight to voicemail, just like the last dozen times. "Sarah, please," he whispered into the phone. "Whatever's wrong, we can fix it. The kids need you. I need you. Please come home." But there was no answer, and somehow he knew there wouldn't be. Morning came too quickly. Michael hadn't slept, his mind racing between anger, confusion, and fear. He heard the familiar sound of small feet in the hallway upstairs. "Daddy?" Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, her long brown hair tangled from sleep. "Where's Mommy? She always makes pancakes on Saturday." Michael swallowed hard. He couldn't fall apart now. These 4 little people needed him to be strong. "Come here, sweetheart," he said, opening his arms. Emma climbed into his lap, looking up at him with Sarah's eyes. "Is Mommy still sleeping?" she asked. "No, honey." Michael took a deep breath. Mommy had to go away for a while. When is she coming back?" The question hung in the air between them. Michael didn't have an answer that wouldn't break his daughter's heart. "I don't know," he said finally, "but we're going to be okay, I promise." The next few months were the hardest of Michael's life. He had to learn how to be both mother and father, while working full-time as a high school English teacher. His parents helped when they could, but they lived 3 hours away. Sarah's parents hadn't been in the picture for years. They'd never approved of Michael, thinking their daughter had married beneath her. Michael learned to braid Emma's hair, though his first attempts were pitiful. He learned to decipher Noah's limited vocabulary, to help the twins with their homework, to cook meals that everyone would eat. He learned to function on 4 hours of sleep and endless cups of coffee. Each night after the kids were in bed, he would try Sarah's number again. After 2 months, it was disconnected. He hired a private investigator, but the trail was cold. Sarah had emptied her personal account, about $4,000 sand, simply vanished. At night, alone in what had been their bedroom, Michael would replay their marriage in his mind, searching for clues. Had she been unhappy all along? Had he missed the signs? They'd met in college, fallen in love quickly, married young. The children had come soon after. Life had been busy, sometimes stressful, but he had thought they were happy. How could he have been so wrong? As the months passed, Michael developed a routine. He took a leave of absence from teaching and found a job as a copywriter that allowed him to work from home. The pay wasn't great, but the flexible hours meant he could be there when the kids got home from school. Emma took on responsibilities beyond her years, helping with the younger children. She never complained, but Michael sometimes caught her sitting alone, looking at photos of Sarah, tears silently sliding down her cheeks. "I miss Mommy," she told him one night as he tucked her in. "I know, sweetheart. I miss her too. Why did she leave us? Was it because I was bad?" Michael's heart cracked. "No, Emma, no. It was nothing you did. Nothing any of you kids did." Sometimes. He struggled to find words that wouldn't make Sarah into a villain, but wouldn't burden his daughter with adult problems either. Sometimes grown-ups get very sad or confused, and they make choices that hurt the people they love. But it's not your fault. Never think that. Emma nodded, but he wasn't sure she believed him. The twins handled things differently. Lily became quieter, more withdrawn. Lucas grew angry, his temper flaring over small things. Noah, too young to understand, simply asked for Mama less and less as time went by. 1 year after Sarah left, Michael finally packed away her clothes. 2 years after, he took down the wedding photos from the walls. He dated occasionally, but nothing serious. His heart wasn't in it, and besides, his children took all his time and energy. He bought books on single parenting, joined support groups, learned how to make holidays special even with one parent missing. He started a blog about his experiences as a single dad of 4, which unexpectedly gained a following. The extra income from ads on the blog helped with the always tight budget. 3 years after Sarah left, Michael's first book was published, a collection of essays about single fatherhood that grew out of his blog. It wasn't a bestseller, but it sold well enough that he could cut back on copywriting work. 4 years after she left, he was invited to speak at parenting conferences. 5 years after, he started a nonprofit organization that provided resources for single parents. Life moved forward. The children grew. The pain never completely disappeared, but it dulled with time. Michael learned to live with the questions that had no answers. And then, 10 years after Sarah walked out of their lives, everything changed again. Emma Collins, now 17, sat at her desk, staring at her computer screen. She had been searching for months, using every trick she could think of to find her mother. It had started as a school project, research your family history, but had quickly become an obsession. Her searches had led nowhere until last week, when she found a Sarah Collins working as an art teacher at a small private school in Oregon, clear across the country from their home in Connecticut. The woman in the faculty photo had Sarah's honey blonde hair, though cut shorter now, and her smile. Emma was 99% sure she had found her mother. Now she stared at the blank email form, cursor blinking, wondering what to say to the woman who had walked out of her life when she was 7 years old. "Dear Mom, if this is you," she typed, then deleted it. To Sarah Collins, she tried again, but that felt too formal. Finally, she settled on, "My name is Emma Collins. I believe you might be my mother. I was 7 when you left. I have so many questions. If you are my mom, please write back. If not, I'm sorry to bother you." She attached a recent family photo, the 4 kids with their dad at Christmas, and hit send before she could change her mind. For 3 days, Emma checked her email obsessively. Nothing. On the fourth day, she found a reply. Emma, yes, I am your mother. I don't know what to say except that I'm so sorry. You were such a wonderful little girl. You still are, from the look of you. Your email has left me shaking. I never thought I would hear from any of you again. I don't deserve your forgiveness or even your attention, but if you want to talk, I'm here. Sarah. Emma read the email 20 times. She hadn't told her father or siblings about her search. She wasn't sure how they would react, especially her father. He never spoke badly about Sarah, but Emma knew how deeply her mother's abandonment had hurt him. After careful thought, Emma replied, I do want to talk. I have so many questions. The main one is, why did you leave us? The twins are 15 now. Lucas plays baseball and wants to be an engineer. Lily is into photography and has Dad's quiet nature. Dad published his third book last year. He started a non-profit for single parents. We're okay, but we've missed you every day. I'm applying to colleges now. I want to study psychology. I think maybe growing up the way we did made me interested in understanding people better. Can we talk on the phone sometime? The response came the next day. Emma, thank you for telling me about everyone. I've imagined what you all must be like now, but it's not the same as knowing. Your father always was remarkable. I'm not surprised he's done well despite what I did. As for why I left, it's complicated and no excuse justifies what I did. I had severe postpartum depression after Noah was born, though I didn't recognize it then. I felt like I was drowning, like I couldn't breathe. I convinced myself you would all be better off without me. I was wrong, terribly wrong. I've been in therapy for years. I'm not the same person who left, but that doesn't undo the pain I caused. Yes, we can talk on the phone. My number is below. But Emma, does your father know you've contacted me? I don't want to cause more hurt. Emma bit her lip as she read the email. She hadn't told her father yet. Part of her was afraid he would forbid her from contacting Sarah. Another part feared he might be deeply hurt that she was curious about the woman who had abandoned them all. But she knew keeping this secret wasn't right. That evening after dinner, when the younger kids were occupied, Emma asked her father if they could talk privately. What's up, Em? Michael asked as they sat on the back porch swing. Emma took a deep breath. Dad, I found Mom. Michael went very still. What do you mean you found her? I've been searching online. She's living in Oregon. She's an art teacher. Michael was quiet for a long moment. Why didn't you tell me you were looking for her? I wasn't sure how you'd feel about it, Emma admitted. And I wasn't sure I'd find her. Michael ran a hand through his hair, now sprinkled with gray at the temples. How do you feel about all this? Confused, curious, a little angry still, but also, I don't know. I want to understand why she left. She told me a little in her email. She said she had depression after Noah was born. Michael nodded slowly. I suspected that might have been part of it. I wish she had let me help her. So, you're not mad that I contacted her? No, Em. You have every right to know your mother. I've never wanted to keep her from you kids. She's the one who stayed away. Emma hesitated. There's one more thing. She asked about all of us, about how we're doing, and she mentioned your books and the non-profit. I think she might want to see us. Michael's expression was unreadable. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Why don't you have your phone call first? See how that goes. The next day, Emma called the number Sarah had provided. Her heart pounded as the phone rang. Hello? The voice was familiar even after all these years. Mom? Emma's voice cracked on the word. Emma. Sarah's voice was thick with emotion. I can't believe I'm hearing your voice. You sound so grown up. I am grown up, Emma said, a touch of bitterness creeping in. That's what happens in 10 years. I deserve that, Sarah said quietly. I'm not just angry, Emma said. I'm confused. I want to understand. They talked for an hour. Sarah explained more about her depression, how overwhelming motherhood had felt, how she had convinced herself they would all be better off without her. She'd gone to Oregon because her college roommate lived there, far from anyone who knew her. She had planned to get herself together and then come back. But days turned to weeks, weeks to months, and eventually she convinced herself it was too late. "I was a coward," Sarah admitted. "The longer I stayed away, the harder it seemed to come back. I figured he had probably remarried, that you all had a new mother, a better mother." "Dad never remarried," Emma said. "He dated sometimes, but nothing serious. He was too busy raising us." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "He always was extraordinary. Even when we were young, I knew he was special." "You hurt him," Emma said plainly. "You hurt all of us." "I know, and I will regret it for the rest of my life." By the end of the call, Emma had made a decision. "I want to meet you, in person." "Are you sure? What about your father? The others?" "I'll talk to Dad. The twins should know too. They remember you a little. Noah doesn't remember you at all." The thought made Sarah's voice catch. "My baby doesn't remember me." "You left when he was 2, Emma reminded her, unable to keep the accusation from her voice. "You're right. I'm sorry." After the call, Emma talked to her father again. To her surprise, he supported the idea of her meeting Sarah. "You're almost an adult, Emma. This is your decision." Would you want to see her too?" Michael was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Part of me wants to understand what happened. Part of me is afraid of stirring up old feelings, good or bad. But this isn't about me. It's about what you kids need." When Emma told the twins about finding their mother, their reactions were as different as their personalities. Lucas was angry, wanting nothing to do with the woman who had abandoned them. Lily was quiet, thoughtful, eventually admitting she was curious but scared. Noah was the most difficult. "But I already have a mom," he said, confused. "What do you mean, buddy?" Michael asked. "Aunt Kate. She's like my mom. She takes me places and helps me with stuff." Kate was Michael's younger sister, who had moved closer to help with the kids a few years after Sarah left. She was a significant presence in their lives, especially for Noah, who had no memories of Sarah. "Aunt Kate is amazing," Michael agreed. "And she loves you very much. But she's your aunt. Sarah is your biological mother, the woman who gave birth to you." Noah shrugged. "But she left." "Yes, she did. And that was wrong. But people sometimes make big mistakes when they're hurting or confused." After much discussion, they decided that Emma would go to Oregon first, during her spring break. Depending on how that went, they would decide next steps for the rest of the family. 6 months after that first email, Sarah stood on a street corner in Portland, waiting. She had barely slept the night before, her mind racing with anxiety about seeing her daughter for the first time in a decade. Would Emma hate her? Would she see the resemblance between them? Or would they be like strangers? And then Emma was there. A tall teenage girl with Sarah's blonde hair and Michael's warm brown eyes, walking toward her with purpose. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. "Emma?" she said, though she knew it was her. "Mom." The word sounded strange coming from this nearly grown person. They stood awkwardly for a moment before Sarah tentatively opened her arms. Emma hesitated, then stepped forward for a brief, stiff hug. The weekend was filled with long conversations. Emma had a list of questions, and Sarah answered them as honestly as she could. She showed Emma her small apartment, her classroom at the school where she taught, introduced her to a few friends. "Are you happy here?" Emma asked on the second day as they walked through a park. Sarah considered the question. "I've built a life here. I have good friends, a job I enjoy. But happy? No, not really. There's always been this hole, knowing what I left behind, what I threw away." "Then why didn't you ever come back? Or at least get in touch?" Fear, Sarah admitted. Fear and shame. The longer I stayed away, the more impossible it seemed to return. What could I possibly say? Sorry I abandoned you. Can I come home now? And as the years passed, I convinced myself you were all better off without me. That wasn't your decision to make, Emma said firmly. We needed our mother. I know that now. I've been in therapy for years, trying to understand why I did what I did. Postpartum depression was part of it, but not all. I was immature, selfish in ways I didn't recognize then. I felt trapped by motherhood, by the demands of 4 children. Instead of asking for help, I ran away. Sarah wiped at tears. It's the greatest regret of my life. By the end of the weekend, something had shifted between them. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. A tentative bridge across the decade-long absence. Lily wants to meet you, Emma said as they said goodbye at the airport. Lucas is still angry, but I think he's curious too. And Noah. Noah doesn't remember you at all. Sarah nodded, the pain of that knowledge sharp in her chest. Dad never talks badly about you. Never has. He's been amazing, raising all of us alone. He says it's up to us kids if we want to know you. That sounds like Michael. Sarah smiled sadly. He always put you all first. After Emma's visit, the emails and phone calls became more regular. Lily joined some of the calls. Lucas eventually agreed to email, though his messages were brief and guarded. Noah listened with curiosity when his siblings talked about their mother, but showed little interest in communicating directly. 6 more months passed. Sarah continued teaching, but had begun to consider her future. The pull toward her children, toward making amends, toward being part of their lives in whatever way they would allow, grew stronger. I've been thinking about moving back east, she told Emma during one of their weekly calls. Not to intrude on your lives, but to be closer. If you wanted to see me, it wouldn't require plane tickets and planning. Really? You'd leave your job? Your friends? None of it matters as much as trying to repair what I broke, Sarah said. If you and your siblings are open to it, and if your father wouldn't object too strongly. Emma was quiet for a moment. Dad never tells us what to think about you. He always says you're our mother, and how we feel about you is up to us. But what? I think he was really broken when you left. He put himself back together for us, but there's still this sadness sometimes when he thinks no one's watching. Sarah closed her eyes against a wave of guilt. I hurt him terribly. I know that. You should talk to him, Emma said. Before you make any decisions about moving, you should talk to Dad directly. Sarah's heart raced at the thought. Do you think he would agree to that? I don't know. I can ask him. When Emma raised the subject with Michael that evening, he was quiet for a long time. Dad, what are you thinking? I'm thinking that it's been 10 years, and I still don't know why she left. Not really. I've made my peace with it as much as anyone can, but yes. Yes, I would talk to her. The phone call between Michael and Sarah was scheduled for the following Sunday evening. Sarah paced her apartment, rehearsing what she might say, knowing no words could adequately address what she had done. When the phone rang, she almost couldn't answer it. Hello, Sarah. His voice was deeper than she remembered, but still unmistakably Michael. Michael, thank you for agreeing to talk to me. Emma thought it was important. She's remarkable. You've done an amazing job with her, with all of them, from what I can tell. They're good kids. They've had to be resilient. The implied accusation hung between them. Sarah took a deep breath. I owe you an explanation, though nothing can justify what I did. I'd like to understand, Michael said simply. Sarah explained about the postpartum depression that had started after the twins and deepened after Noah. How she had felt like she was drowning, like she couldn't breathe with the constant demands of 4 children. How she had convinced herself they would all be better off without her. Why didn't you talk to me? Michael asked, pain evident in his voice. We could have gotten you help. I would have done anything. I know that now. But then, I was ashamed. I thought I was supposed to be naturally good at motherhood, that something was fundamentally wrong with me because I was struggling so much. And the more I struggled, the more I pulled away, the more I felt like a failure. So you just left. No goodbye. No explanation. Yes. Sarah's voice broke on the word. It was unforgivable. I did look for you, Michael said. For 2 years I had a private investigator. I called hospitals, checked missing persons reports. I thought you might be dead. Sarah hadn't known this. The knowledge that he had searched for her, worried for her, after what she had done only deepened her shame. I'm so sorry, Michael. I know those words are inadequate, but I am truly, deeply sorry. What do you want now, Sarah? Why after all this time? I want to know my children, she said honestly. Whatever role they'll allow me to have in their lives. I've missed so much their childhoods, basically. I can't get that back. But maybe going forward. She hesitated. Emma says you never remarried. No. There was no time, really, between work and 4 kids. And to be honest, I didn't trust my judgment after. Well, after you left. The words stung, but Sarah knew she deserved them. Emma mentioned that you're considering moving back east, Michael said, changing the subject. Yes. To be closer to the kids, if they want that. I'd find my own place, of course. I wouldn't expect. I'm not trying to disrupt the life you've built. The twins will be off to college in a few years. Noah's growing up fast. Our house feels too big sometimes. Sarah wasn't sure how to respond to that. After a long pause, Michael spoke again. If you're serious about being in the kids' lives, about making amends, then yes, I think you should move closer. They deserve the chance to know their mother, if that's what they want. And you, Michael? What do you want? He was quiet for so long that Sarah thought he might not answer. I want to understand how the woman I loved enough to create 4 children with could walk away from us all without a backward glance. I've had 10 years to think about it, and I still don't understand. I don't expect you to forgive me, Sarah said softly, but I'd like the chance to try to make things right, as much as anything can be made right after what I did. Come, Michael said finally. Come and see if there's anything left to salvage here. 3 months later, Sarah stood on the doorstep of the house she had abandoned 10 years earlier. The same brass knocker hung there, worn but polished, the same red door, though freshly painted. Her hand trembled as she raised it to knock. The door swung open, and there he stood, Michael, the man she had left with 4 small children, and a note saying simply that she couldn't do this anymore. His hair was grayer than she remembered, lines at the corners of his eyes that hadn't been there before, but still handsome in the way that had first attracted her 25 years ago. His eyes widened in shocky, hadn't expected her until tomorrow, and all the rehearsed words died in her throat. Behind him, she could see the house was different, bright, organized, warm. And from somewhere inside came children's laughter, but they weren't small children anymore. The silence between them stretched until he finally spoke. Why now? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Why come back now? Sarah opened her mouth to answer, but before she could, Emma appeared in the hallway behind Michael. Mom, you're here already? We thought you were coming tomorrow. Over Emma's shoulder, Sarah met Michael's eyes, saw the mix of emotions there: confusion, pain. I caught an earlier flight, Sarah explained as Emma stepped back. I should have called. I'm sorry to just show up like this. It's fine, Michael said, though his tone suggested it wasn't entirely fine. Come in. Sarah stepped into the house that had once been her home. The layout was the same, but everything else had changed. The walls were painted in warm, bold colors instead of the neutral tones she had preferred. Photos lined the hallway, the children at various ages, school pictures, vacation snapshots, a timeline of the decade she had missed. The twins are at baseball practice. Well, Lucas is playing, and Lily is taking photos for the yearbook, Emma explained. They'll be home soon, and Noah's upstairs playing video games with his friend Dylan. As if on cue, thundering footsteps sounded on the stairs, and a boy appeared tall for 12, with Sarah's blonde hair and Michael's eyes. Dad, can Dylan stay for dinner? His mom said it's okay if you. Noah's voice trailed off as he noticed the stranger in the hallway. Oh, hi. Sarah's heart clenched. Her baby, the toddler she had left behind, was now this lanky preteen looking at her with mild curiosity but no recognition. Noah, Michael said gently, this is Sarah. Noah studied her, his expression revealing nothing. Hi, he said again. And then to Michael, so can Dylan stay for dinner? Not tonight, buddy, Michael said. Family dinner tonight, remember? We talked about this. Noah nodded, disappointed but not surprised. I'll tell him. He bounded back up the stairs. Sarah felt the sting of his indifference, though she knew she had no right to expect anything else. He'll warm up, Emma said, touching Sarah's arm. He just needs time. Sarah nodded, blinking back tears. Of course. Come on, Michael said. Let's go to the kitchen. I'll make coffee. The kitchen was completely different. New cabinets, new appliances, an island where the small table had been. It was a chef's kitchen now, clearly designed for someone who enjoyed cooking. You remodeled, Sarah observed. About 5 years ago, Michael said as he prepared the coffee maker. The old layout wasn't efficient for cooking for 5. You cook now? Sarah couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. During their marriage, Michael had barely managed to boil water for pasta. A small, wry smile crossed his face. I had to learn. 4 kids need to eat. The simple statement held no accusation, but Sarah felt the weight of it nonetheless. While she had been building her new life in Oregon, Michael had been here, learning to cook. The house looks amazing, she said. You've done so much with it. We've been busy, he agreed, setting a mug of coffee in front of her. The fact that he remembered how she took her coffee after all this time made her chest tighten. Before she could respond, the front door banged open and voices filled the hallway. Dad, you won't believe what happened at practice, a boy's voice, breaking on the higher notes. Is Sarah here yet? Emma said she was coming today. A girl's voice, softer but insistent. And then they were in the kitchen doorway, the twins, 15 now, so grown from the 5-year-old she had left behind. Lucas was tall, athletic, his dark hair sweaty from practice. Lily was slender, artistic-looking, a camera hanging around her neck. They stopped abruptly when they saw her, both staring as if she were an apparition. Hi, Sarah said, her voice barely audible. Lily took a hesitant step forward. Mom? The word, spoken in her daughter's voice, broke something open in Sarah's chest. She nodded, unable to speak around the lump in her throat. Lucas stayed where he was, his expression guarded. You're really here? Yes, Sarah managed. I'm really here. For how long? Lucas asked, a challenge in his voice. It was the question that hung in the air between all of them, the fear that she would disappear again. I've moved back, Sarah said. I've rented an apartment in town. I'm here to stay, if that's what you all want. Lucas looked unconvinced. Lily moved closer, studying Sarah's face as if memorizing it. You look like your pictures, Lily said. Sarah laughed softly, grateful for the break in tension. Yes, well, 10 years will do that. Are you staying for dinner? Lily asked. Sarah glanced at Michael, unsure. Yes, she's staying for dinner, he confirmed. We're all having dinner together. The meal was awkward at first. Noah was quiet, answering only direct questions. Lucas was polite but distant. Lily and Emma carried most of the conversation, telling Sarah about school, friends, hobbies. Dad's cooking is actually really good now, Emma told her. He took classes and everything. After the spaghetti incident? Lucas added with a grin. The spaghetti incident? Sarah asked. Michael shook his head, a reluctant smile playing at his lips. Let's just say there was an unfortunate misunderstanding about how much water to use when boiling pasta. The pot boiled over, the smoke detector went off, and we ended up ordering pizza. That was right after. Lily trailed off, suddenly uncomfortable. Right after I left, Sarah finished for her. It's okay, Lily. We don't have to pretend it didn't happen. We had a lot of pizza that first year, Michael said, steering the conversation to safer ground. And sandwiches. And cereal for dinner more times than I care to admit. But then Dad got really into cooking shows, Emma explained. And he started trying recipes, and some of them were actually good. Most of them, Michael corrected with mock indignation. Except the curry, Lucas said, making a face. Oh, the curry was bad, Emma agreed. The curry was a learning experience, Michael said diplomatically. Sarah watched them, this family that had formed in her absence, with their inside jokes and shared memories. She felt like an intruder, yet these were her children, her husband-ex-husband in every way except legally. She reminded herself. After dinner, the kids scattered Noah back to his video game, Lucas to homework, Lily and Emma to help clear the table. Sarah insisted on helping with the dishes, falling into an oddly familiar rhythm with Michael. She washed. He dried, just as they had done early in their marriage. They're amazing, Sarah said quietly. You've done an incredible job with them. They've had to be resilient, Michael said again. It hasn't always been easy. I know, and that's my fault. Michael was quiet for a moment. Yes, it was, but what matters now is what happens going forward. You're their mother. They need you in their lives, in whatever way works. And you, Michael? What do you need? He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since she'd arrived. I needed you to not leave in the first place. The words landed like a physical blow. I know, she whispered. I know. Later, Sarah said her goodbyes, promising to return soon. Emma hugged her tightly. Lily gave her a shy embrace. Lucas offered a stiff nod. Noah waved from the staircase. At the door, Michael hesitated. We're having a cookout on Saturday. If you'd like to come, meet some of the kids' friends. Kate will be there, me sister. She's been a big part of the kids' lives, especially Noah's. I'd like that, Sarah said. If everyone is comfortable with me being there. They'll be fine, Michael assured her. This is part of the process. Sarah nodded, wanting to say more but unsure what words could possibly bridge the gulf between them. Thank you, Michael. For tonight. For everything. He simply nodded, his expression unreadable as he closed the door. The cookout on Saturday was held in the backyard of the Collins home. When Sarah arrived, the yard was already filled with people, neighbors, the kids' friends, a few adults she didn't recognize. She spotted Michael at the grill, expertly flipping burgers and laughing at something someone had said. You came. Emma appeared at her side, giving her a quick hug. Come on, I'll introduce you to everyone. Sarah followed her daughter through the crowd, smiling and shaking hands as Emma made introductions. Some of the adults gave her curious looks. They clearly knew who she was and the story of her absence, but most were polite. And this is Aunt Kate, Emma said finally, stopping in front of a woman who looked like a feminine version of Michael. Same warm brown eyes, same easy smile. Hello, Sarah, Kate said, her tone neither warm nor cold. I've heard a lot about you recently. All good things, I hope, Sarah said with a nervous laugh. Well, let's just say the reviews have been mixed, Kate replied, but there was a hint of humor in her eyes. The kids are trying, which is more than some people might do in their position. Sarah nodded, accepting the subtle reprimand. I know. They're remarkable. You've been a big part of that. Kate's expression softened slightly. They're great kids. I've been lucky to be in their lives. I wanted to thank you, Sarah said, for being there for them, for Michael, when I wasn't. I didn't do it for you, Kate said plainly. I did it because those kids needed someone, and Michael was drowning trying to do it all alone. I know, and I'm grateful anyway. Kate studied her for a moment, then nodded. Well, you're here now, that's something. The afternoon progressed more comfortably than Sarah had expected. Noah still kept his distance, but Lucas actually spoke to her a few times, asking about her job teaching art. Lily showed Sarah her photography portfolio, shyly accepting praise for her obvious talent. As the sun began to set, someone started a fire in the pit on the stone patio, and people gathered around with drinks and s'mores ingredients. Sarah found herself sitting next to Michael, a little apart from the main group. "This is nice," she said, gesturing to the scene before them, their children laughing with friends, the comfortable atmosphere. "You've built a good life here." "We had to," Michael said simply. "Life doesn't stop just because someone leaves." Sarah winced at the bluntness of his words, but couldn't argue with their truth. "I know I keep saying it, but I am sorry, Michael. More sorry than I can express." Michael was quiet for a long moment, watching the fire. You know what the hardest part was? Not the practical stuff, the cooking, the cleaning, the homework help. It was the nights. Lying in our bed alone, wondering where you were, if you were safe, if you were happy. "You didn't do anything wrong," Sarah said quickly. "It was all me, my depression, my cowardice." "I was your husband," Michael said. "I should have seen how much you were struggling. I hid it well. I was ashamed of feeling the way I did. What kind of mother doesn't love being a mother?" "Many mothers, I suspect," Michael said, "but most of them find help instead of running away." Sarah had no response to that. They sat in silence for a while, watching the party wind down as guests began to leave. "So what happens now?" Michael asked finally. "You've moved back, met the kids again." "I'd like to be part of their lives, as much as they'll let me. Build relationships with them. Try to," she hesitated, searching for the right words. "Not make up for the time I lost, because that's impossible, but at least create something good going forward." "And us?" Michael asked, his voice careful, neutral. "Where do we fit in this plan?" Sarah looked at him, surprised by the question. "I didn't think there was an us anymore. Not after what I did." Michael's eyes met hers, and for a moment, she glimpsed the man she had fallen in love with 25 years ago. "There probably shouldn't be," he agreed, "but I've found that the heart doesn't always make logical decisions." Before Sarah could process what he meant, Noah appeared in front of them. "Dad, can I stay at Dylan's tonight? His mom said it's okay." Michael shifted his attention to his son. "Did you finish your science project?" "Most of it. I'll finish the rest tomorrow." "All right then, but I want you home by noon tomorrow. We've got that thing at Grandma's, remember?" Noah nodded, then glanced at Sarah. A brief, uncertain look. "Bye," he said, and then, after a moment's hesitation, "See you later." It wasn't much, but it was something, a small acknowledgement that there would be a next time. "See you later," Sarah echoed, her heart lifting slightly. After Noah left, Michael stood. "I should start cleaning up." "Let me help," Sarah offered. They worked together, gathering plates and cups, putting away leftover food, falling into an unexpectedly comfortable rhythm. "I should go," Sarah said as the last trash bag was tied. "Thank you for including me today. It meant a lot." Michael walked her to her car. The night was cool, stars just beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "Will you come to dinner again next week?" he asked. "Tuesday, maybe?" "I'd like that," Sarah said, surprised and pleased by the invitation. "Good." Michael hesitated, then added, "The kids miss you after you leave. They don't say it, but I can tell." Sarah's heart tightened at his words. "I miss them too. Every minute I'm not with them, I'm thinking about them. I know the feeling, Michael said quietly, and she knew he was referring to the decade she had been gone. Impulsively, Sarah reached out and touched his arm. I never stopped loving them, Michael. Or you. I know that doesn't excuse what I did, but I need you to know that. Michael looked down at her hand on his arm, then back at her face. I used to imagine this, you know. You coming back. Thousands of times, I played out this scenario in my head. What I would say, what you would say. And? Is it anything like what you imagined? A small, sad smile crossed his face. In my imagination, I was either much angrier or much more forgiving. The reality is complicated. Complicated? Sarah agreed. But real. Real, Michael echoed. Then, surprising her, he covered her hand with his own for a brief moment before stepping back. Tuesday at 6. The kids will be expecting you. Over the next few months, Sarah became a regular presence in the Collins household. Tuesday dinners became a tradition. She attended Lucas's baseball games, Lily's photography exhibitions, Emma's debate tournaments. Noah gradually warmed to her, especially after she revealed a previously unknown talent for video games. At first, Sarah was careful to maintain boundaries, conscious of being a guest in what had once been her home. She would arrive early to help with dinner, stay late to help with dishes. She and Michael developed a cautious friendship, built on their shared love for their children and tentatively nurtured by small moments of connection, a shared joke, a remembered story, a brief touch when passing in the kitchen. Sarah found a job teaching art at a local community center and rented a small apartment nearby. She decorated it with bright colors and filled it with art supplies, creating a space where the kids could visit. Lily came most often, eager to learn painting techniques to complement her photography. Lucas visited occasionally, usually with a clear purpose: homework help. A specific question, but sometimes staying longer than necessary. Noah preferred to see her at the house, in the familiar territory of home, but he no longer avoided her. Emma watched it all with a mixture of hope and trepidation. One evening, as she and Sarah sat on the balcony of Sarah's apartment, she voiced her concerns. "Are you and Dad getting back together?" Sarah looked at her daughter in surprise. "What makes you ask that?" Emma shrugged. "The way you look at each other sometimes. And Dad laughs more when you're around. He hasn't dated anyone in years, even though Aunt Kate keeps trying to set him up." Sarah considered her words carefully. "Your father and I have a long, complicated history, Emma. We're trying to find a way forward that's good for all of you kids." "But do you still love him?" Emma pressed. Sarah sighed. "I never stopped loving him. But love isn't always enough. And trust, once broken, is very hard to rebuild." "He's forgiven you, I think," Emma said. "Or at least, he's trying to." "Forgiveness is a process," Sarah said. "It takes time." 10 years wasn't enough time? Sarah smiled sadly. 10 years apart meant 10 years of not facing what happened, not working through it together. Emma was quiet for a moment. "I want you to be happy. Both of you. All of us." "That's what we want too, sweetheart." The conversation stayed with Sarah in the weeks that followed. She found herself watching Michael more closely, noticing the small changes in him, the way his smile came more easily now, the slight relaxation of his shoulders when they were in the same room. One evening in late summer, about 6 months after Sarah's return, Michael invited her to stay after dinner. The kids were all out, Emma at a friend's, the twins at a movie, Noah at a sleepover, and they had the house to themselves. "I thought we could talk," Michael said as he poured them each a glass of wine, without an audience for once. They sat on the back porch swing, the same spot where Emma had first told him she'd found Sarah. The night was warm, crickets chirping in the garden. "I've been thinking a lot," Michael began, "about what happened, about why you left." Sarah tensed slightly, unsure where this was heading. I've been reading about postpartum depression, he continued, trying to understand what you went through. Michael, you don't have to. Yes, I do, he interrupted gently, because I missed it. You were suffering, and I didn't see it. I hid it well, Sarah reminded him. And even if you had seen it, that doesn't excuse what I did. No, it doesn't. Michael agreed. But understanding helps. It helps me make sense of something that's never made sense to me, how the woman I knew, who loved her children, could walk away from them. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I've asked myself that question every day for 10 years. And what answer did you find? That I was sick. That I was scared. That I made the worst mistake of my life, and then compounded it by being too ashamed to try to fix it. She wiped at her tears. But none of those answers feel adequate even to me. Michael nodded, his expression thoughtful. I've realized something over these past months, watching you with the kids. You're not the same person who left. And I'm not the same person you left. No, Sarah agreed, we're not. The question is, Michael continued, his voice soft, whether these new versions of us have any future together. Sarah's heart stuttered. What are you saying, Michael? He turned to face her fully, his eyes serious. I'm saying that I've spent 10 years angry, hurt, confused, and the last 6 months trying to move past those feelings. I'm saying that despite everything, I find myself looking forward to the days when you'll be here. I'm saying that maybe there's something still here worth exploring. Sarah could hardly breathe. Are you sure? After everything I did? No, Michael said honestly. I'm not sure of anything except that life is short and unpredictable, and that holding on to anger and resentment hurts me more than it hurts you. The kids are happier with you in their lives. I'm happier with you in my life, which makes no logical sense given our history, but there it is. What would this look like? Sarah asked, afraid to hope but unable to stop herself. This exploring you mentioned? A small smile played at the corners of Michael's mouth. I believe the traditional term is dating, though I admit it's unconventional to date one's almost ex-wife and the mother of one's children. Sarah laughed despite herself. Our situation has never been conventional. No, Michael agreed. It hasn't. So, you want to date me? Sarah clarified, still not quite believing what she was hearing. I want to see if there's a way forward for us that includes more than just co-parenting, Michael said carefully. I want to get to know the person you are now, and let you get to know the person I've become. No promises, no pressure, just possibility. Sarah felt hope unfurl in her chest, delicate and terrifying. I'd like that, she said softly. Michael reached over and took her hand, his touch warm and familiar yet somehow new. We should take it slow, for the kids' sake as much as our own. Slow, Sarah agreed, though her heart was racing. We've got time. Michael's eyes held hers. Yes, we do. And in that moment, sitting on the porch swing as crickets sang in the garden, Sarah felt the first real sense of homecoming since she had returned. Not a returning to the past that was gone, irretrievable, but perhaps the beginning of a new home, built on older foundations but designed for the people they had become. You're what? Lucas's voice rose with each word, his face flushing with anger. You're going on a date? With her? Michael had gathered the children in the living room to tell them about his and Sarah's decision to try dating. Emma looked thoughtful but not surprised. Lily was smiling cautiously. Noah seemed confused. Lucas was furious. We're going to spend some time together, yes, Michael said calmly, to see if there's a way forward for us. After what she did? Lucas demanded. She left us, Dad, for 10 years, and now you're just going to take her back like nothing happened? Not like nothing happened, Michael corrected. We've both changed, grown, and this isn't about erasing the past. It's about seeing if we can build something new. This is such bullshit, Lucas muttered. Lucas, Michael warned. Watch your language. Why? Lucas challenged. Why should I be careful about what I say when she wasn't careful about abandoning her entire family? Sarah, who had been quietly sitting across the room, spoke up. You're right to be angry, Lucas. What I did was wrong, and you have every right to feel hurt and betrayed. I don't expect you to forgive me or to be happy about this. Lucas looked at her, his expression a mixture of anger and pain. Then why are you doing it? Because despite everything, your father and I still care about each other, Sarah said honestly, and we want to see if there's something worth saving there. Well, I think it's nice, Lily interjected softly. People make mistakes, even really big ones. Leaving your family isn't a mistake, Lucas argued. It's a choice, a terrible choice. Yes, it was, Sarah agreed. The worst choice I ever made, and nothing I do can undo it, but I'm trying to make better choices now. Lucas stood abruptly. Well, count me out. I'm not going to sit around and pretend we're one big happy family. He stormed out of the room, footsteps pounding up the stairs. Michael sighed. I'll go talk to him. No, Sarah said. Let me. Michael hesitated, then nodded. He needs to hear from you. Sarah found Lucas in his room, angrily throwing a baseball against the wall and catching it. She knocked on the open door. Can I come in? Free country, Lucas muttered, not looking at her. Sarah entered and sat on the edge of his desk chair. The room was typically teenage boy sports posters on the walls, clothes on the floor, textbooks piled haphazardly on the desk. I understand why you're upset, she began. Do you? Lucas challenged, still not looking at her. Do you have any idea what it was like? Do you know how hard he worked to make sure we were okay? Do you know how many times I had to tell kids at school that no, my mom wasn't dead, she just didn't want us anymore? Each word was like a knife to Sarah's heart, but she forced herself to stay present, to not defend or excuse. No, she said quietly. I don't know. I can't know. And I'm more sorry than I can ever express. Lucas finally looked at her, his eyes so like Michael Shard with hurt. You broke him. You broke all of us. Yes, Sarah acknowledged. I did. And now you think you can just come back and everything will be fine? No, Sarah said firmly. Nothing will ever be fine about what I did. The hurt I caused can never be erased. I know that. Lucas threw the ball harder against the wall. Then why are you even here? Because I love you, Sarah said simply. All of you. I never stopped, even when I was too sick and too ashamed to act like it. And because your father, somehow, has found it in his heart to consider giving me a second chance. Not because I deserve it, but because he's an extraordinary man. Lucas caught the ball and held it, his anger seeming to deflate slightly. He is, he agreed. I know, Sarah said. He's always put you kids first. And he still is. If you really can't handle this me and him trying to figure things out, then we won't do it. Your well-being comes first. Lucas looked surprised. Really? Really, Sarah confirmed. I've already hurt you enough for a lifetime. I won't add to that hurt if I can help it. Lucas was quiet for a long moment, turning the baseball over in his hands. He's been different since you came back, he said finally. Happier, I guess. He smiles more. I've noticed that too, Sarah said softly. I don't want him to get hurt again, Lucas said, a protective fierceness in his voice that made him seem older than his 15 years. Neither do I, Sarah assured him. I can't promise that we won't hurt each other in some way. All relationships involve risk. But I can promise that I will never, ever leave like that again, no matter what happens between your father and me. Lucas studied her face, searching for sincerity. You swear? I swear, Sarah said, holding his gaze. On everything I hold dear. Lucas nodded slowly. I guess you can go on your stupid date then. Sarah smiled, recognizing the concession for what it was. Thank you. As she stood to leave, Lucas spoke again. "But if you hurt him, if you hurt any of us again, I'll never forgive you. Ever." "I understand," Sarah said, and she did. "That's fair." The first official date between Michael and Sarah was deliberately casual dinner at a small Italian restaurant in town. Both were nervous, like teenagers on a first date rather than long-separated spouses in their 40s. "This is weird, isn't it?" Michael said as they studied their menus. "The whole concept of dating someone you were married to for 12 years. "Definitely weird," Sarah agreed with a small laugh. "But nice, too." The conversation was stilted at first, both of them falling back on safe topics: the kids, work, local news. But as the meal progressed, they began to relax, and the conversation deepened. "Tell me about your life in Oregon," Michael said as they shared a tiramisu. "Not just the facts, but what it was really like." Sarah considered the question. "Lonely," she said finally. "I made friends, had colleagues I enjoyed, but there was always this emptiness. Everything was colored by what I had left behind. I'd see a little girl Emma's age and wonder if she was into the same books Emma liked. Or I'd hear a joke and think, Lucas would laugh at that. Did you ever consider coming back before Emma found you?" "Constantly," Sarah admitted. "But the longer I stayed away, the more impossible it seemed. What could I possibly say? How could I explain? So I convinced myself you had all moved on, that your lives were better without me, that coming back would only disrupt everything again." "That wasn't your decision to make," Michael said, echoing Emma's words from months earlier. "No," Sarah agreed. "It wasn't. That was part of the same broken thinking that led me to leave in the first place. Thinking I knew what was best for everyone, without actually talking to them." Michael nodded, taking a sip of his coffee. "And now? What do you want now?" Sarah met his eyes across the table. "I want to be part of my children's lives. I want to support them, love them, help them become the amazing people they already are becoming. I want to see where this thing between us might go, if that's possible." "It won't be easy," Michael warned. "There's a lot of water under our bridge." "I know," Sarah said. "But nothing worthwhile is ever easy, right?" Michael smiled, the expression lighting his whole face in a way that made Sarah's heart flutter. "Right." When he drove her home that night, he walked her to her door, a gesture that felt both old-fashioned and oddly right for their unusual situation. "I had a good time," Sarah said, suddenly shy. "Me too," Michael agreed. "We should do it again." "I'd like that." They stood for a moment, the air between them charged with memory and possibility. Then, slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, Michael leaned in and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, tentative and questioning, but it sent shivers through Sarah's entire body. When they separated, Michael tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch lingering on her cheek. "Good night, Sarah." "Good night, Michael." As she watched him walk back to his car, Sarah felt a profound sense of both coming home and starting something entirely new. The future was uncertain, the past still painful, but in this moment, there was hope. 1 year after Sarah's return, the Collins family gathered in the backyard for what had become a weekly tradition: Sunday dinner together. Michael stood at the grill, expertly flipping burgers, while Noah peppered him with questions about baseball statistics. Lily and Emma set the patio table, laughing about something on Emma's phone. Lucas tossed a football with his friend Tyler in the far corner of the yard. Sarah emerged from the kitchen carrying a large bowl of salad, taking in the scene with a fullness in her heart that still surprised her. So much had changed in a year. Emma was preparing to leave for college in the fall, accepted to her first-choice school to study psychology. The twins were finishing their junior year of high school, Lucas already fielding interest from college baseball scouts, Lily winning awards for her photography. Noah, now 13, had grown 3 inches, and developed an intense interest in both science and sports. And then there was Michael. Their relationship had progressed slowly, carefully, with a deep awareness of the stakes involved. They still lived separately, Sarah, in her apartment. Michael in the family home with the kids, but they spent most of their free time together. The dating phase had gradually shifted into something more solid, more certain. "Need any help?" Sarah asked, as she set the salad on the table. Michael smiled at her, the warm smile that still made her heart beat faster. "We're good here." Noah looked up from his statistics book. "Did you know that in 1941, Ted Williams had a .406 batting average? No one's hit over 400 since then." "That's impressive," Sarah said, ruffling his hair. He ducked away but smiled at the gesture. Their relationship had been the slowest to develop, perhaps because Noah had no memories of her from before, but it had grown steadily over the months. Sarah had discovered his love of facts and figures and made a point of finding interesting statistics to share with him. In return, he had gradually let her into his world of video games, sports, and middle school drama. "Mom," Lily called from the table, "come look at Emma's dress for graduation." "Mom." The word still sent a thrill through Sarah when her children used it. It had taken time. Lucas had been the last to start calling her that again, about 6 months after her return, but now it felt natural, right? As the family gathered around the table to eat, Sarah found herself overwhelmed with gratitude, not just for the second chance she had been given with her children, but for the new relationship she and Michael had built, something deeper, more honest, and in many ways stronger than what they had before. After dinner, as the kids cleared the table, Michael took Sarah's hand and led her to the small garden bench at the far end of the yard, partially screened by flowering bushes. "I wanted to talk to you about something," he said, his expression suddenly serious. Sarah felt a flicker of anxiety. "Is something wrong?" "No, nothing's wrong," Michael assured her. "Actually, everything is really good, don't you think?" Sarah relaxed slightly. "Yes, better than I ever hoped it could be." Michael nodded, seeming to gather his thoughts. "We've been taking this slow, for good reasons. The kids needed time to adjust. We needed time to figure out who we are now, individually and together." "Yes," Sarah agreed, wondering where this was heading. "But Emma's leaving for college soon. The twins will follow next year. Things are changing." "That's the nature of family," Sarah said. "Children grow up." "Yes," Michael said. "And parents evolve. Relationships change." He took a deep breath. Sarah's heart began to beat faster. "What about it?" Michael reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "This isn't exactly a proposal," Michael said, opening the box to reveal a simple silver ring with a small diamond. "At least, not in the traditional sense. We're already married, technically, though it didn't mean much for a long time." "Michael," Sarah whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "What I'm asking is if you'd be willing to renew our vows, to make a new commitment based on who we are now, not who we were then. To acknowledge that while our past is part of us, it doesn't have to define our future." Sarah looked at the ring, then at Michael's face, the face she had loved for more than half her life, the face she had missed for 10 long years, the face that had shown her more forgiveness and grace than she had ever thought possible. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, I would like that very much." Michael slipped the ring onto her finger, then leaned forward to kiss her, a kiss full of promise and possibility. A sound from nearby made them break apart. They looked up to see all 4 of their children standing a few feet away, watching them. "Well?" Emma asked, her expression hopeful. "She said yes," Michael told them, his voice thick with emotion. There was a moment of silence, and then Lucas stepped forward, his expression serious but not angry. Are you sure about this, Dad? Both of you? Michael looked at Sarah, then back at their son. I'm sure, he said firmly. We've done the work, Lucas. We've faced the past and figured out how to move forward. Your mother isn't the same person who left, and I'm not the same person she left. We're choosing each other. Lucas held his father's gaze for a long moment, then nodded. Okay then. Emma squealed and rushed forward to hug them both. Lily followed, tears streaming down her face. Noah hung back for a moment, looking uncertain, but then joined the group hug. So are you moving back home now? He asked Sarah. Sarah looked at Michael, unsure how to answer. That's something we'll need to discuss, Michael said. But yes, eventually. That's the plan, if everyone is comfortable with it. It's weird, Lucas admitted, but also kind of not weird. I mean, you're already here most of the time anyway. And your apartment is so small, Lily added. And this way I can beat you at Mario Kart any time I want, Noah said with a grin. Sarah laughed through her tears, overwhelmed by the acceptance in her children's faces. I love you all so much, she said, more than I can ever express. We know, Mom, Emma said softly. We love you too. Later that night, after the kids had gone to bed, Sarah and Michael sat on the porch swing, her head on his shoulder, her new ring catching the light from the patio lamps. Are you happy? Michael asked, his voice soft in the darkness. Sarah thought about the question. Happiness seemed too simple a word for the complex tangle of emotions she felt: joy, gratitude, lingering regret for past mistakes, hope for the future. I'm more than happy, she said finally. I'm home. Michael's arm tightened around her shoulders. Yes, he agreed, we all are. And as they sat there under the stars, Sarah knew that while the road ahead would not always be smooth, there would still be hard days, old hurts that might resurface, challenges to face. They would face it together. The broken pieces of their family had been gathered, examined, and reassembled into something new, something stronger at the broken places. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it was theirs, and it was enough.